From Software's Bloodborne is a gothic cosmic Lovecraftian hybrid that makes for a unique aggression-fueled experience. The game took the Souls formula and sort of repurposed it. So interestingly, that gamers have been losing their minds trying to navigate it. The highlight of any Souls game is its bosses. And of course, Bloodborne is no exception, ranging from beastly to straight-up nightmare-inducing. The bosses in this game are not to be trifled with. They are certainly among the most terrifying creations of Hidetaka Miyazaki. The bosses are not all equal, naturally. There are depths to each of their characters and lore. Understanding them not only adds a layer of complexity to the game, but also gives us an insight into the thought that has gone into creating them. In today's video, we will be looking at 10 of the most terrifying bosses in Bloodborne and breaking down the details behind their characters. Hold tight, because it's about to get super creepy. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The Orphan of Kaz. Appearing as a tall and skeletal humanoid figure, the Orphan is the offspring of the deceased Kaz. Its mouth is fixed in a creepy grin, and it keeps screaming violently throughout fights. It has a thin membrane-like structure draped over its back like a cape, but this takes the form of a pair of wings. When the Orphan enters its second form, it uses its placenta as a weapon. During fights in the fashion of a club, it can tear off pieces from it to use as projectile explosives. After its transformation, the placenta mutates into a weapon that resembles a massive axe. It initially ignores the player and only stares at the sky with a mournful expression, but then charges ahead in rage and starts the battle. After seemingly dying, it drops the Kaz parasite, the Black Phantom, of which can be found near the apparent head of Kaz's corpse. The Black Phantom is actually the true Orphan of Kaz. The Orphan is referred to as the poor wizened child of Kaz. It is believed that the desecration of Kaz by the old hunters caused the death of this infant great one, which made it fade into a limbo-like plane. As retaliation, Kaz laid the curse of blood on the old hunters responsible for their earthly deaths. This also extended to those who would follow in their footsteps, drunk with blood. The later hunters would join the old ones in the limbo of the Orphan of Kaz. This is called the hunter's nightmare. After death, the spirit will linger with the corpse of the mother until it's killed. This pleases Kaz and causes her to lift the hunter's blood curse of the nightmare. It is not known why she does this, but a voice is heard saying that the child has returned to the ocean. This could imply that the child has returned to life on Earth, or has exited the state of limbo it was in, and can now freely traverse the cosmos. In the first phase, the Orphan slashes, plunges, and leaps. In its attacks, it also uses placenta spin and blood orb. In the second phase, it notably uses blood explosions and heavenly thunder. It is considered to be one of the toughest bosses in the game, and an aggressive strategy is advised for players. The Orphan is less aggressive in the first phase, which makes it safer to attack it from a distance. In the second phase, its moves will have a larger reach and effect, so it is advisable to use fire paper or bolt paper. Players should also get offshore as quickly as possible when it calls its mother for help, to avoid lightning. Ludwig, the Accursed / the Holy Blade. Ludwig was initially a healing church hunter who transformed into a hideous beast. His lower body is thin and flayed, and he has 4 asymmetrical hoofed legs. He has 2 long arms with very sharp talons, between which there is a maw lined with irregular teeth and numerous eyes. He is blind in the right eye and has a horrifying face that looks like melted and wrinkled skin with crooked teeth over what appears to be the elongated head of a horse. Ludwig was an effective leader and trained many hunters under the healing church. He also trained ordinary Yharnamites and used their population to combat the scourge. He wielded a mystical greatsword. That he had discovered, which allowed him to channel the abyssal cosmos. The sword was surrounded by tiny beings of light, and Ludwig would turn to them for guidance even in the middle of a hunt. This implied that the sword was sentient on some level. No matter how respected he was, some people severed ties with him and his ways, comparing him to a degenerate and possessed beast. He succumbed to bloodlust at some point and mutated into a beast form. resembling a cross between a man, horse, and a wolf. Resembling a cross between a man, horse, and wolf. Trapped in the hunter's nightmare, he had completely lost himself to the blood and killed countless beasts and hunters in his rage, creating the blood river that flowed through the nightmare. In the first phase, it is difficult to attack Ludwig because he has limbs in many locations, similar to the one reborn. He is weak to bolt, fire, and arcane in this phase. He spits a damaging fluid if too much distance is kept between him and the player. When he loses 50% of his health, he enters the second phase and uses far-reaching sword strikes as well as arcane attacks. He also no longer takes damage from serrated weapons. This implies that in the first phase, Ludwig fights as a beast who has gone mad, but in the second phase, the sword brings back some of his humanity, allowing him to die a somewhat dignified death instead of being slaughtered like a beast. Amygdala. The amygdala is a monstrous entity with the body of an arachnid, a short tail, and a fly-like head. Its head has many bulbous eyes that bulge when arcane attacks are launched. It has 7 arms with 6 fingers on each, and 2 legs with reptilian talons. It appears to be a revered great one due to the numerous statues seen in the cathedral ward and the unseen village. Patches the spider is its loyal devotee and offers sacrifices to it. There are numerous theories surrounding the amygdala. Some believe it to be a single entity, capable of making clones. Others argue that they are not true great ones, since their file name appears to have been something along the lines of false god. The amygdala seems to have a connection with Mensis during the game, but could also be linked to Byrgenwerth. The insect mob from Byrgenwerth resembles the amygdala in more ways than one. Some fans believe that the amygdala influenced Mensis to conduct a ritual to summon the pale blood moon and bring it to Yharnam. Others theorize that the amygdala are fully grown celestial children, worshipped as the offspring of great ones and humans. The tentacled variants were called false gods, suggesting that they are flawed in some way that prevents them from ascending to the status of a true great one. Unlike the singular great one amygdala, some believe they serve higher great ones, carrying out their bidding. The amygdala is assumed to possess all the powers common to great ones, such as immortality. However, it can still be killed by mortal means. Its presence grants people insight and increases their susceptibility to madness. There are several strategies to combat the amygdala. The first 2 phases involve baiting its attacks, dodging, and then striking its limbs and head. However, the final phase, when it rips off its arms, can be difficult to navigate due to its aggression. A maxed out Simon's bowblade can be used to land critical hits. One of its most disturbing attacks is its acid discharge, which covers a larger area in the second phase. The Moon Presence. The Moon Presence is the great one that created the hunter's dream and rules over it. It is an eldritch being made of human flesh and bone, except for its head. It is covered in tentacles that resemble hair and a tail. Its body is essentially a large human spine with ribs, and it has no face, just a hole in its head. The origin of the Moon Presence is unknown. Its first recorded appearance was to Lawrence, who summoned it for reasons that remain unclear. The Moon Presence also has a connection with Pale Blood. Some fans believe it to be an embodiment or avatar of Odin. It can influence humanity's beasthood and create a vague dimensional overlap between the real world and the nightmare. The Moon Presence seeks to perpetuate the hunt and the recurrence of the pale moon for an unspecified reason. Some theories suggest it is a great one afflicted with a beast curse. Before encountering the hunter, the Moon Presence had bound Gehrman, the first hunter, to the hunter's dream, using him to further its own machinations, primarily the extermination of other great ones. The Moon Presence attacks are erratic and fast, similar to those of a blood-starved beast. Many fans believe that, despite being the final boss of Bloodborne. The Moon Presence is somewhat easier to defeat than Gehrman, who is encountered just before it. Did you know that the Moon Presence was inspired by Nyarlathotep, the Lovecraftian outer god, also known as Crawling Chaos? The game's Lovecraftian themes are especially evident in the design of this entity. Lawrence, the first Vicar. Lawrence was a scholar at Byrgenwerth who became a cleric beast. He discovered the healing properties of old blood and believed that humanity could transcend to a higher stage through its use. However, Provost Willem distrusted the old blood, believing it to be inherently dangerous. It is possible that Willem already understood the nature of beasthood and considered the use of old blood too risky. Lawrence left Byrgenwerth after disagreeing with Willem, but promised to heed his warnings about the dangers of the blood. He traveled to Yharnam and founded the Healing Church, demonstrating the miraculous healing properties of the old blood. However, as the infected blood circulated, Lawrence became the first victim of the plague, mutating into the first cleric beast in history. He was eventually put to death. Due to the curse placed upon hunters by Kaz, he was imprisoned in the Hunter's Nightmare, where he burns for all eternity without memory, endlessly seeking to reclaim his lost purpose. This is his punishment for his misdeeds. Lawrence is perpetually engulfed in an indistinguishable flame and can spit lava from his mouth in addition to bleeding it from his torso. Due to this, fire-based attacks are ineffective against him. In his first phase, he fights like a typical cleric beast, displaying extreme aggression. In the second phase, his legs explode, and he becomes a crawling torso that spews lava everywhere. However, he is vulnerable to ranged attacks, which players can use to overwhelm him. As a beast, he is weak to serration. Lawrence may have been inspired, in part by St. Lawrence, who was burned alive. It is also possible that he was named after Lawrence Sterne, an Irish author whose body was stolen and dissected, with his skull later going missing. The One Reborn. The One Reborn was the result of an unholy Thumerian ritual that used the bodies of the people of Yharnam. This boss is formed of misshapen and decayed body parts that assemble to form a huge unliving creature. It has a single massive humanoid torso attached to its mass that controls it as a whole. However, its various body parts appear to be independently alive. The general consensus regarding its lore is that the One Reborn is the failed result of an experiment that tried to ascend humankind to the level of the Great Ones. There was probably a mass sacrifice ritual to create and give a body to some new creature. It is possible that the One Reborn is a creation of the School of Mensis, intended to be a vessel for the One, or a tribute to its image. This is somewhat plausible, since the notes close to Parl's fight mention how the Mensis ritual needs to be stopped so they all do not become beasts. The arena of the One Reborn features 6 bell-ringing women who attack hunters with arcane projectile weapons, and it is advised to finish them off first. Any attack that uses fire paper or bolt paper will work well against this boss, and a flame sprayer can inflict more damage, allowing for more time for the stamina bar to fill up. The One Reborn can spew acid, which must be avoided at all costs. A plunging attack from the upper level can deal significant damage. Blood-starved beast. This is a deformed quadrupedal creature with its skin peeling off its back and a malnourished, skeletal appearance. However, it is so devoid of blood that it bleeds poison instead. Depending on how the player explores the Cathedral Ward, the blood-starved beast is the 3rd or 4th boss in the game. It is believed that this boss was once a person who was receiving blood healing as part of the rituals performed by Healing Church members in Old Yharnam. This can be inferred from the corpse of another blood-starved beast, found crucified and chained in the Ritual Hall of Yharnam. Ritual blood is found beneath the corpse, suggesting a connection to the Healing Church's practices. It is possible that these beasts were once blood saints, nuns chosen as sources of healing blood, since they share similarities with the female beast patients. They had to be skinned alive, so their blood could be collected without killing them. Some fans theorize that the blood-starved beast is a Thumerian descendant and may have begun ascending into an amygdala due to its thin limbs and torn back, where additional limbs would sprout. This boss mainly uses frontal attacks, and in the later stages, its attacks can cause poison buildup. There are 3 stages to the fight. In the first, damage can be dealt by shooting or throwing knives at it. When the beast has 2/3 of its health remaining, the second stage begins, during which its attacks last longer and have a greater range. In the last stage, it gains a permanent poison aura, which can be problematic if the hunter stands too close. Fire, paper, and Molotov cocktails can be effectively used to deal damage. Father Gascoigne. He is a hunter with extensive experience who has succumbed to the blood drunkenness of the hunt and descended into a frenzied killing spree. He wields a hunter axe and a modified version of the hunter pistol. He is not a priest of the Healing Church, but one of their hunters. He was originally a priest in a foreign land, where he earned the title of father. And traveling to Yharnam and becoming a hunter, he married a woman named Viola and had children. However, as he continued hunting, he was increasingly affected by bloodlust and eventually even forgot about his family. His wife used to play a music box to help him return home and remember her and their children whenever he succumbed to bloodlust. However, during his final hunt, he completely lost himself and became no different from the beasts he hunted. Viola went searching for him but forgot the music box and subsequently died. It is unclear whether he killed her or if the scourge did, but her death ultimately stripped him of all humanity. There is some debate about whether he lost his humanity because he killed her himself or because he witnessed her being killed by a beast. However, it appears that regardless of the cause of her death, he holds himself responsible, as indicated by his final words, "Forgive me." When the hunter encounters him, he is seen hacking at bodies near where his wife lies ahead. Interestingly, using the music box in battle against him causes him to become weak, hold his head, and mumble. This likely happens because it forces him to relive memories of Viola playing the music box, and the guilt over her death causes him anguish. However, the music box no longer affects him in his third form. When he transforms into a beast, Father Gascoigne has 3 forms in battle, and in the first 2, he uses his trick weapon, the hunter axe. Although he flinches when hit 2 or 3 times, he later gains hyper armor and fights back. When his health drops to 2/3 of its maximum, he transforms the axe into a longer, 2-handed version and continues to use the pistol alongside it. This is remarkable, as no other hunter is capable of doing so. In his final form, he transforms into a wolf-like beast and becomes extremely aggressive. However, at this stage, his resistance to fire damage drops significantly, making Molotov cocktails particularly effective. Shadow of Yharnam. The Shadow of Yharnam refers to 3 figures in black robes who have been infected with the parasitic snakes found in the woods and undergo horrific mutations. They share a symbiotic link with the vipers and can summon them to devour victims or transform their arms into whips. Shadow 1 uses a mace and casts long-range, semi-homing fireballs, while Shadow 2 has a scimitar and a candlestick that works as a flamethrower. Shadow 3 uses only a scimitar, but it is the most aggressive of the 3. They are servants of Queen Yharnam and are more challenging to deal with than other shadows. Some fans believe that, in addition to being servants, they also worship the Queen and guard the entrance to Byrgenwerth to protect Rom, who is holding back contact with the Great Ones and stopping the beckoning of the Blood Moon and the Nightmare of Mensis. They are guarding Yharnam herself. Shadow 1 is the slowest of the 3 and can be killed first by luring it away from the rest. In Phase 2, both shadows can shoot tentacles out of their arms to whip or stab players. Shadow 2 ignites its scimitar, adding fire damage. Shadow 1 shoots fireballs in this stage. If it does not die early, they gain the ability to summon snakes in Phase 3, beginning with 1, but it can go up to 3. Therefore, it is vital for the player not to prolong the battle with the shadows. Rom, the vacuous spider. Despite the name, Rom actually resembles a giant pill bug rather than a spider. She has a silverfish-like tail and a bulbous body, from which plant-like limbs appear to grow, resembling cold blood flowers. Her face looks like pumice and is covered in ice, which may signify a connection with the Great Ones. She is hostile only when provoked and uses arcane attacks to defend herself. She is accompanied by spider-like creatures, known as the Children of Rom. They could be her offspring, or may have simply been created to protect and defend her. Rom controls the barrier that prevents normal humans from witnessing the true horrors around them, such as the Lesser Amygdalae in Cathedral Ward. She was once a scholar of Byrgenwerth, who metamorphosed into a kin thanks to Kaz. Some fans theorize that Rom is either a captor or a guardian to Wilhelm, and is closely associated with the School of Mensis. She is also seemingly connected to Mikolash, considering his words about her. Rom likely ascended before the Byrgenwerth schism, and because she is vacuous, she is not fully ascended. She was used as a starting point in Wilhelm's research on ascending a Great One. Her death triggers the Blood Moon event, beckoning the moon presence closer. There are 3 phases to the fight with Rom. In the first phase, she is mostly non-hostile and surrounds herself with numerous spiders for protection. It is a good idea to kill these spiders during this phase, since dealing with additional minions later can be difficult. In the second phase, she spawns even more spiders and starts using arcane attacks before teleporting to a different location and initiating the next phase. This is where she uses her flail attack, which is deadly near her head and difficult to anticipate. Bolt paper and fire paper can be used against her, as well as Tenitris. A flame sprayer is also advantageous. After the fight, it is possible to use a Bolt Hunter's Mark to leave the area without triggering the Blood Moon phase. Marvelous verdict. As we mentioned, the bosses in Bloodborne are not equal, but all of them are certainly a pain to deal with. Knowing how to inflict damage on them and when to retreat is essential for a winning strategy. The lore behind each of these bosses is truly fascinating, and fans have developed many theories about them. For a game as unique as Bloodborne, the backstories of these characters add intrigue and suspense, making the experience one of a kind for both amateur and experienced gamers alike. If you like this video, let us know in the comments what kind of content you'd like to see from us. We will be back soon. Until then, stay tight.